Why do the same situations keep triggering us over and over again? Kabbalah teaches it's not a punishment. Hidden inside every trigger is a gift that most people can't see. But what does it mean to be triggered? It's such a catchphrase today, everybody uses it. It's intense, and often the reaction to that circumstance didn't even match the situation. Often we're feeling attacked, and it's something we're taking personally. What we don't realize is that there are wounds from the past that have not been healed. Some examples in real life include feeling ignored, feeling people are always talking over you, feeling like you're being interrupted or you're often being criticized. Someone's tone. If someone's tone is bothering you, chances are you're getting triggered. This is a big one for myself and my daughter. And these are the subtle ones. These are the ones that you're really not paying attention to, because it's easy to get triggered when someone's yelling or they're having a bad day and they're taking something out on you. Here's an aha moment about being triggered. Being triggered is something on the outside. It's external, but it's being caused by something that's internal. An example in my own personal life is with my daughter. Often I have to repeat things, and it seems like she's focused on something else. I find myself having to repeat myself more than one time. 2 is okay. 3, I'm getting upset at this point, and I'm like, why aren't you listening to me? And I notice at that moment that I am being triggered. I'm connecting the dots to my childhood when I was raised in a family where children should be seen and not heard. I got triggered because of a childhood wound. When my daughter wasn't listening to me, it elicited something inside of me so emotional of when I felt so ignored by my parents. They loved me, but in that generation, it was just different. I'm aware when this happens, and it's really my child that's talking. I'm the parent, and I have the ability to say to my daughter, why aren't you listening to me? It's something I probably wanted to say when I was a child, but didn't. The ancient wisdom of Kabbalah, which is thousands of years old, says to look at every situation through a spiritual lens. What does it mean to look through things with a spiritual lens? Kabbalists explain we come here to learn lessons. So when we are getting triggered, we need to ask ourselves, what is the lesson in this for me? What am I supposed to be learning? In Kabbalah, there's something called tikkun, and it's what you came here to overcome. Often, a trick to discovering what your tikkun is the thing that's the most difficult for you to obtain because there's blockages. So it could be in the area of love life if you have challenges in your love life. It could be in the area of finances if you work so hard and haven't been able to attain the wealth that you want. The subject of tikkun and what we came here to overcome is a video that I will be doing where I'll take a deeper dive into this Kabbalistic concept. Just know that when you're being triggered, there's always a lesson in it for you, something to learn, to grow from. How you respond is the difference between you staying stuck in the past, being a prisoner of your own wounds, or consciously moving forward and finding more happiness in your life, not being stuck in an endless cycle of chaos. Kabbalah has a word for being triggered. It's called reactive. Quite often, people will think about the circumstance, think about the person. That's not the problem. The problem is your reaction to that situation is what's causing any negativity in your life. It's causing you the pain, not the actual situation itself. I heard a quote today, and it's something that I love. What triggers us controls us. That is so true. It's important to understand what's triggering you so that you can make change. There's subtle triggers, there's the big triggers. It's those bigger triggers that are the hardest to change. Because being triggered is an immediate reaction, the goal is to be able to pause before you have that reaction. While you're putting this practice into place, if you notice yourself getting triggered and you pause immediately and you catch yourself, there's going to be change in that. The more that you do that, the easier it's going to become next time someone triggers you with a similar circumstance. It all starts with awareness, even being aware that you're being triggered. When recognizing triggers, the most obvious in your face ones are the easiest ones to recognize. The person who had a bad day and they're yelling at you, being demonstrative, speaking over you, those are pretty easy to identify, right? But it's the subtle ones that are really always lurking beneath the surface that are the hardest to identify. But when you do, it'll make a difference in your daily life. You'll notice them when you're becoming defensive. Or, like in my case, my daughter says, "Mom, you don't need to be defensive when I say this." I didn't even realize this at the time because it's not one of those big things where she's not listening to me or she's interrupting me. This is something where she's saying something to me and I felt the need to defend myself. That's a trigger in itself. Or when the way she speaks to me in a certain way at a certain time, and she will always say to me, "Mom, you're too sensitive." And I probably am because I've heard that my whole life, but it's the tone. And the reason I am sensitive to it is because it's eliciting something from my past, a wound. It hasn't been healed. Another subtle sign of being triggered is if you find yourself over-explaining. And if you don't find yourself over-explaining, the person you're over-explaining to, they'll let you know. Or if you feel the need to give someone the silent treatment. I shared a story a couple videos back where my daughter was pulling out of the driveway and I started to talk to her. And she just starts talking about the new house under construction across the street. So I say, "I'm trying to tell you something." And she says, "Okay, go ahead." And no sooner do I get a few words out of my mouth, she does it again. I got so upset. "I'm trying to talk to you. You're not listening to me. You're being so rude." And she says, "You're right. I'm sorry. Go ahead." At this point, I was so upset. I just said, "No, forget it." I guess I was giving her the silent treatment. And so what does she do? She turns on the stereo and I shut the stereo and I say, "I want to talk now." And so I realized in retrospect, I was acting like a toddler in that moment. There are some deep wounds with feeling ignored as far as I've had to deal with. Next time something happened like that, I just chuckled. And when she interrupted me, I waited till the end. I said, "Hey, just want to bring this to your attention." And you know what? It got easier next time. Doesn't mean it's going to be like that all the time, but every step brings me closer to the blessing of me creating my happiness versus my chaos. Because every time I get triggered, I'm creating my own chaos. Every time we get reactive, it keeps us stuck in the past, keeps us stuck in those wounds we have not healed. The goal is to understand, why is this showing up? What is there for me to learn? It all starts with an awareness. When you look through a spiritual lens and you look for the connection as to what is this teaching me? What lesson am I supposed to learn? That's the first step to creating change in your life and having more spiritual growth. What most people don't realize is that when they are getting reactive, Kabbalah's word for being triggered, whether you're getting angry, whether you are feeling ignored, whether you are getting frustrated, you are cutting yourself off from the light. This was first brought to light by a very well-known Kabbalist, Rabbi Isaac Luria, thousands of years ago. To paraphrase what he said, every time we get angry, we are shutting out the light of the Creator and we're bringing negative forces to us. That was thousands of years ago. Now you fast forward to a psychologist whom in 1975 basically said the same thing, because we have free... I'm going to cut that part out. Everything is in the perspective how you look at it. If you look at being triggered as a gift and you are able to overcome that reactivity by being aware and then pausing, you just transformed. First of all, you created new neural networks because you're not repeating the same pattern over and over. And you were able to grow spiritually from that experience. And when you do that, we gain more blessings. The Kabbalistic lesson in all of this, an ancient wisdom from thousands of years ago, it was from Rob Brandwine. He was someone who was the subject of people speaking negatively about him. He could have chosen to speak back, let it upset him, but he was able to embrace what people said without feeling like he was being attacked. We've learned from this that there are tremendous blessings when you are able to embrace the things that trigger you. When you learn the gifts and why you're being triggered and you embrace them, you'll appreciate them. You'll say thank you. And you have endless blessings that come from this. Recently, I've even said to my daughter, trigger me, because I want to practice being able to pause. The greater the pause, the greater the blessing. I love seeing the link between the ancient wisdom of Kabbalah and modern science, neuroscience, psychology. There's a psychologist in 1975. He said, there's a space between something that triggers you and your reaction to it. And in that space is where you have the choice of free will and how you're going to respond. It's the pause. It's the power of the pause before you get reactive. He also drew a correlation between the ability to be able to pause and self-awareness and consciousness. He even said they're not separate. The first step is being aware when you're being triggered and to pause. Remember, the greater your pause, the greater your blessings. The closer you get to the light and the more you're evolving spiritually. In life, in this 1% material world that we live in, while our goal is to connect to the 99% unseen forces, the things that control everything in our life, while we're here, there's two things that are always going to be happening. One is things are always going to be happening to you. And the second thing is your reaction to those things. When you learn to pause, you learn to create more happiness in your life. Become the best pauser ever and receive endless blessings.